I get a lot of questions about why things are a certain way. And I see where the questions are coming from. It is very difficult to give a convincing reply using concepts to why things are a certain way. Because that question itself is coming from a form of a narrowed perception or filter which says things should be a certain way. Usually the way I want. Yesterday I went to explore mountains. And as I was traveling, I was experiencing different emotions. Sometimes I experienced sadness, sometimes joy, looking at the beautiful nature, the serenity, the grand magnitude of things. It reminded me of a love of something that I carry within. And I kept looking at that beautiful scene. Although the journey was risky because there were landslides and stones and boulders were falling off mountains. We even had a narrow escape, and we were saved by a small margin as we were traveling. And then we came across a tea seller, Keshav, who was quiet, and he was offering food items and tea to people who were passing by. So we asked for a cup of tea, each one of us. And he was quiet all through, just letting us know that tea will be ready in a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, I was just exploring the area around. I was looking at the cave structures, at the beautiful scenery. And because it's monsoon season, which is a bit risky to travel in the mountains, I could see how grand the view was. And the reason why the view was so grand was because there was a recognition that this beautiful nature, this intricate design that is created, reminds me of something that I carry within my own self. It is not that I can reach and touch it and acquire it, because the moment I try to reach it, acquire it, I will be disappointed. Because the need to acquire, to get there, to accomplish, it comes from this very limited perspective. It comes from this small entity that wants and lives for the gratification of the senses. So the senses desire pleasure, and the sense pleasures bring up this identification that wants to get there, possess. And in that, something of vital importance is lost. However, as I stood there and watched the scene, even with the flow of traffic and honking of cars, there was a felt sense of oneness with the vastness of what was, what is, and what continues to be. Meanwhile, as our tea was prepared, which was delicious, by Keshav, I reached out to him and just asked randomly, "Can you tell me about these caves below which you've put your tea stall?" And I saw the man's eyes lighting up. The man forgot everything in the world. He even forgot that he was a tea seller and that he had to serve other customers. And he completely became this channel of information. He was speaking non-stop without taking even a single pause. The excitement, the thrill of telling us how beautiful the land is. I could see it in his eyes. I could see it in his body. I could see how energetic he became. And told us everything, how sacred the land is. What is its span? Why so many devotees come to visit this place? The beautiful nature, the gods and goddesses that visited this holy land. From beginning till end, he just non-stop in one flow described everything with strict instructions to us that we must visit this place, this place, this place. And we did intend to visit some of the places he recommended, but the weather got rough and we did not have the means to travel in that environment, so we had to return back. But it was lovely to see how we can sometimes completely let go of the roles and become with this stream of consciousness that is purely non-analytical, non-judgmental, simply allowing us to become one with everything. Keshav offered us tea in a small earthen cup, which is called kullar. in the local language. And holding the earthen cup, I felt the essence of the earth element that I carry in this consciousness that is identified as me. How it is one of the elements that compose the body. It is only when you put your hands in the mud, and we did put our feet into the mud because it was raining and it was muddy all around. We had mud on our clothes, on our hands. We were holding our tea, the water with its heat, the fiery heat, contained in an earthen cup that exists in ether, space, whatever you want to call it. And since there was no limited perception, there was total attention into what was happening. I was the cup, I was the tea, I was the heat, I was the space, I was the tea cellar, I was the mud, I was the mountains, I was the clouds, I was the cars, I was the honking, I was the cow dung on the road, I was the grass, I was, I am. There was no difference between the one seeing the view and the view itself. This is what it is to be home. Only in imagination we feel that we left home. In that imagination, we believe that we are the lost character trying to find way back home, not realizing that we never left. Not realizing how simple it is to be home. Here, this, just as it is. All that is needed is a cup of tea. A cup of tea to remind who we are. When I look at the scene, and the entity comes up saying how beautiful, how gorgeous the scene is. I'm truly not appreciating the real beauty. It is all superficial because I'm using words. I'm not looking deep enough. But repeating what I've been told. To look deep. Is to be contained. Is to be present. Is to be present totally to everything that surrounds, everything that is around. Then there is no difference between the cup of tea and the mountain, and the one observing all of this. That is the true beauty. That is the true joy. That is aliveness. There is no difference. There is no division. There is no individuality. There are no borrowed ideas. Individuality being the first and foremost. our capacity to be present gets severely compromised, because all our lives we feed into this sense of individuality that says, I am separate from the other. I matter more than the others. I am better than the others. I must be ahead than the others. Or also the one that says, I am way behind the others. Living in an idea of imagined self, and then using effort to stabilize esteem, which is another idea. In this whirlpool of ideas, in this constant stream of thinking, there is no love. There is no connection. There is no acceptance. There is only reaction. Reaction with I should not, I could not, I must not. There is complete mechanical living. There is no alertness to what is. There is no openness to the joy of the heart, which is what is. How can you truly love a beautiful man or a beautiful woman when you don't even know what beauty is? When the mind is divided as the conceptual self, it seeks protection, it seeks safety. There is no love then, because there is no union. There is only division. As the boulders, the stones were falling from the mountains, just a couple of inches away from us, there was an arising of fear. there was an arising of the divided mind saying you must be safe. Which is logical. However, it lasted just a few seconds. And then the attention again turned inwards to appreciate the joy of what is. We didn't have a destination planned. The road was our goal. And we had decided that we would turn back anytime we felt like. To see the mountains separate from what is to not appreciate their beauty, but to project our own imagination of what the mountain should be like, what the beauty should be like. Fires, landslides, destruction, in some places volcanic activity. They are all part of the beauty. To see that beauty, one requires spaciousness. To be identified with one of the aspects of destruction and to blame the nature, saying the nature is unfair for killing, for destruction, for brutality, is to speak from the divided mind that is fragmented and says what should and should not be. This mind is not present. It cannot see beauty because it is not whole. It is not present. To see without division is to be present, which requires a compassionate attitude towards the divided mind and to gently bring it here, reminding it that here is home and that it truly can never leave home. That is when we can appreciate the art of nature. That is when we can truly feel the joy of what is the creation. without imagining that a separate creator created this vastness. There is nothing out there. It is all here and now. Why don't you see? Why don't you feel it in your bones? Why do you contemplate escape? It's futile. It's futile to fight. Let's go back home.